Hello and welcome. I'm going to get started while people are logging on. Good afternoon. I appreciate you joining us for the latest installment of Power Huddle, Inside the Minds of ESG Gurus. I am Heidi Friedman, a partner and co-chair of Thompson Hine's ESG Collaborative. During these monthly chats, during this monthly series, I chat one-on-one with innovative ESG execs, and I have an amazing one today. These unscripted discussions will examine how these company execs from various industries are actively paving the way as ESG trendsetters and championing pragmatic ESG strategies to align with business values, while building a sustainability framework to advance their company's ESG goals and practices. Joining me today is Danielle Doza. Hi, Danielle. Welcome.
Thank you, Heidi.
Danielle is Vice President of Sustainability and Environmental Services for our Cleveland Cavaliers and Rock Entertainment Group, the first senior level sustainability role in the NBA. This girl is paving the way. Wait till you hear about this. Danielle leads enterprise-wide initiatives spanning sustainable operations, procurement, and reporting. She also supports marketing and communication teams and integrates sustainability into partnership and development. I also love that prior to joining the Cavs, Danielle co-founded a corporate sustainability consulting firm where she advised manufacturer and consumer product companies on strategy, reporting, project-based initiatives. She has been recognized in the Sports Business Journal as one to watch for women in sports and sustainability, because she brings her entrepreneurial insight and industry leadership to her role. Welcome, Danielle. I'm so excited for us to chat.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thanks for having me.
So today's program is being recorded. You can review it at Thompson Hine's YouTube channel. The presentation is intended for information purposes only. The thoughts and opinions being expressed today are those of individual panel members only and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of our clients, employers, affiliates, or Thompson Hine. The content should not be taken as advice, as the views expressed are for informational purposes only. Now, the good stuff. If you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat to me, put it to Heidi Friedman, and we'll do our best during our short time together to get to your questions as well. And let's just dive in. So, Danielle, I'm really excited about our chat because I usually talk to company, private, public, and you really have a different kind of perspective. Tell us a little bit about your ESG journey from consultant to the MBA.
I had been following sports and sustainability for a while, and it was just really an interest. And I got into sustainability in the first place out of passion. I went to law school, was in the legal world. I was always in that social impact space, really wanted to pivot into sustainability. So was self-taught, like you mentioned, co-founded a small consultancy with a partner, which was great. But I am really excited about sustainability in sports. You know, it's very niche, and it was a way to pair two passions. So I was just really lucky that this position became available. I connected with the organization. They were developing the position at the time, and it speaks to the commitment of our organization to make this a more senior level position, right? At that leadership level. So the Cavaliers, they intentionally made it at a vice president level. So this role could have the influence in decision making it needed to make a true impact. So I feel very lucky to be here. And I think I have one of the best ESG sustainability jobs in the field, and I have fun every day doing it.
I think so. Well, and am I correct that you are the Cavs are the first organization to have a C-suite level sustainability professional?
Yes. With that background, I will have the caveat, shout out to the Phoenix Suns, a guy named Alvin Adams, who was a former NBA player, worked for that organization for 30 years in facilities. Very late in his career, took on sustainability to learn about it and drive it forward. So he led sustainability, and I believe he's recently retired or trying to retire as well. So just a shout out to him.
Well, you're making him proud. So I love that. But we're also at this super weird time, right? It's a little bit of, at least on the federal level, this ESG hushing.
Mhm.
And I think stakeholder shareholder input is obviously super important, but we do have a lot of clients just, struggling with pulling back or not. What's your view on that, and how are you and the Cavs handling that?
Yes, there's certainly a political nature to that. Our organization really sticks to our values. You may have seen it recently in the news about our DEI initiatives, and we are holding steadfast to our commitments in that space to promote diversity, whether it's within our own organization or with supplier diversity. We find a lot of value in that. Same with sustainability. It's a bit different. There's, of course, value within that operational space, which I know, we might get to. But when an organization can see the savings in something, or they know they're evaluating risk in a particular way when it comes to ESG, they're going to keep doing it, whether they're talking about it or not, because we all know there's value there, right? And again, back to the values of our organization, we have a lot of commitments to our community. We want to be good community stewards. We want to do the right thing, and sustainability is a huge part of that. So we're going to keep growing in this space and trying to be a leader in this space.
Well, you've accomplished that. You're definitely doing that. And I love what you said, because I'm a big fan, and there's actually been a lot of studies on this, that if you ESG programs make you look proactively and set goals and risk mitigate. So companies do better that plan and invest in it. And so I'm obviously a huge fan as well. And so what do you think to date, what would you say is your largest ESG related accomplishment?
Mm. I think the largest accomplishment is that our senior level executives are talking about it and thinking about it, right? It's easy to say, we reduced our waste or energy efficiency. All of that is very important. We're working on it. But when all of your senior level leaders are thinking about it and talking about it and engaging with the sustainability team, that's a huge accomplishment, right? Because that speaks to the work that has been done to engage and educate your fellow team members so they understand the value of sustainability. And whether it's cost savings or revenue generation, there's a lot of opportunity there. And I'm lucky to be able to work across the organization. So while I sit on the facility operations team, my role is heavily with the operations itself. I work with our partnerships team, for example, to align our corporate partnerships with sustainability, and that drives revenue. It can be something to sell, essentially, or when we're thinking about energy, we have to engage our finance team with prices increasing significantly within our region very soon. We're starting to think about all of that a lot more, and our leaders are thinking about this, and we are investing in it. Not only investing time, but we're investing money in sustainability initiatives. So that's, I think, our biggest accomplishment so far is, again, we have a senior leader. I'm in the room with our leadership team, having conversations, making decisions, and everyone else is talking about it too.
Yeah, your tone from the top and the collaboration and all of that is just such an unbelievable example. So, we talked about this for a minute, but I want to go back to it because I think it's so significant. So, you're in this first executive level sustainability role by the NBA. Tell me how you feel this role can help other NBA teams and sort of set an example. And I know you do some collabing with other organizations, and I'm just interested in your take on how your leadership here can be passed on to other teams.
Within sports, we're a competitive bunch.
Yeah, that would be true.
So I love that with sustainability, because we can challenge each other. We can challenge other
I
teams.
love that.
And the NBA has a sustainability task force. So we are on a call with several other teams once a month, I think it is now. So I'm talking regularly to my counterparts at other teams. When I was hired, I think we were the fourth team to have a full-time sustainability person, fourth, fifth, maybe. And now at least a third of the teams have someone on staff with sustainability in their title.
Mm.
So this is moving quickly. I talk with the folks at the league regularly as well. Someone reached out to me recently and said, just wanted to get insight about where I sit within the organization, who I report to, because another team was creating a position and they're trying to figure out, you know, the best place for this person to sit, right? And that's really important, is where is that sustainability person in your organizational structure? Um, are they on that operational side of things? We have social impact teams. Sometimes someone might sit there. Sometimes someone is maybe on the finance team, and it just depends on the focus of that role. So we are really pushing each other and collaborating regularly, as well as with teams in other sports, or, you know, music venues, things like that. So it's a fairly close-knit group, and we influence each other all the time.
Right, and I feel like you can do so much together. I mean, too, so I love that it's there's meeting on, you know, the top level of all of you guys collabing. And the other interesting fact I think is you went from you know, working with one company or several companies at a time in a consultant role, and now you're coordinating with the Cavs, Rocket Arena, NBA, all of that. Tell me a little bit about how that shifts your ESG lens and how you approach that coordination.
Yeah, it's certainly different. As a consultant, you get to focus on that one company. What are they doing? Or maybe they're responding to a customer, you know, very focused on those needs. Now I'm more in-house as well, so I
Mm.
get to be more innovative, right? As a consultant, of course, you are helping to drive a lot of that sustainability, but now I get to be a lot of an entrepreneur in a sense.
I love that term. Okay.
Because this role was new, so I got to come in and really build it off of a foundation. We have an
Okay.
internal sustainability squad. It was folks in the company who were passionate about sustainability. They started our composting program, advanced recycling, and because of their passion, the organization thought to create a full-time position. But I came in and have been able to build it and identify those priorities, and really look throughout the sports landscape to say what's happening now, what can we do, and then also working with the league. The league has certain requirements. You know, we can't just turn lights off or adjust temperature sometime, because we have humidity requirements. Obviously, we bring, you know, 20,000 people into the building for a game. We want people to be comfortable. So there are different challenges within the sports and entertainment space than there are maybe within a manufacturing organization. While it's still a large building that has to operate, and we want to do that much more efficiently, we do have these unique aspects to the industry. So
Yeah, you know, I never even thought about things like that. So that's fascinating to me, and that underlines for me something you said earlier, which I think we should talk about because it's a little bit different, which is that you sit within the operations team, and the sustainability role is really an operational one here in a lot of aspects, and that's different than a lot of places where it might be more either marketing or product development or legal or whatever. And talk a little bit about how you sit in operations and the impact that has on you carrying out your sustainability role.
Mhm. When you think about ESG, when you think about your footprint, you know, data you're collecting, a lot of it has to do with the operations
It
of an
does.
organization, right? Especially scope one and scope two, and then a little bit of scope three when you think about waste. So that's just a big part of sustainability's focus generally. So I work closely, say, with our housekeeping team. When we think
Okay.
about waste management, how are we reducing our waste sent to landfill? How can we enhance our operations, our housekeeping operations, to make that more effective? You know, what can we do in that space? What does signage look like for fans and for our team members? What does training look like? We're very much working on that. Or it's green cleaning solutions. So part of this is sustainability can help advance innovation within different teams, which is what I love about working in this space. In addition to, you know, waste management's kind of downstream, I also work with our procurement team. to think about how do we consider sustainability when we're reviewing products and services. And so now they are developing sustainability guidelines for our procurement, and our procurement
Wow.
team works across our organization as well. So we're trying to think about that whole value chain.
Mhm.
And it takes, talking to procurement, who can talk to our suppliers, all the way down to our housekeeping staff who manages waste, and talking to our waste hauling company. WM is our waste hauling partner and our official sustainability partner. So they provide support for us. So it's really that operational value chain of products that come in. And I always say everything that comes into our arena has to leave our arena in some way at some point. So how do
Including people.
including people? That's very true, right?
Right.
So how do we think about managing that more responsibly? And that goes to energy as well, and the maintenance of our building, and whether
Right.
it's trying to be energy efficient to recycling light bulbs and batteries, and just getting people to understand what we're trying to do. We're very much still in process of that, because when you come into a role like this, especially in sports or even a manufacturing company, you're changing the way people do things. And
Mm.
behavior change is hard. It's not that anyone is resistant to it. It's just that, oh, I've been doing something for so long.
Right. That's how we always do it, right? So
Exactly.
why do it differently? So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. And then, you mentioned all the NBA rules too as part of this. And you and I talked a little bit about when we first met how it's all usually about CSRD or CS triple D or what's the SEC doing. But you have a unique situation where you're also very focused on like the state and local rules and regs when you're thinking about what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it's we always compare each other within, whether it's the NBA or within sports, to different arenas, and it's very helpful because
Mm.
we can get that data. What are we doing versus another arena?
The
How do we compare
benchmarking or
ourselves?
whatever
Yes,
you want to call it.
exactly.
Okay, sure.
So
Okay.
it is that benchmarking piece, and yes, we all have to think about typical regulations, having a legal background that's valuable within this role too.
Yes.
Um, but within the state of Ohio and the city of Cleveland, we're not necessarily required to do a whole lot when you think
Hmm.
about it, aside from your traditional EHS, labor, safety, all that kind of stuff, right? However, when you think of something like California, the arenas in California or San Francisco, for example, where venues are required to recycle most materials, they're required to compost organic waste. So while they're required to do all of that, we choose to do this. Right.
Mm.
We know there's value there. We know it's the right thing to do. We want to do it. So we choose to do it. And we can also push our region to be better. So if our partners are not required to do something, hey, this is what we're doing. Can we share best practices with you? And you're starting to see that more. Minnesota, or the city of Minneapolis is a great example with waste, in St. Paul, where organizations are fined for sending
Wow. I did not
so much.
realize that. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
right.
so interesting. Okay.
So if you're fined for sending waste to landfill, well, you're gonna really invest in trying not to do that. So you're gonna
Right. Recycling is your best friend. Wow.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes. I mean, you don't even, it's interesting to think about all and you don't, we show up and we watch a basketball game. We don't think about all of the things that go into this. And so it is definitely fascinating to me. And so we talked a little bit about the fact that we're in this weird time. I mean, just generally, but certainly with ESG and sustainability. What do you think your biggest challenge is right now in the sustainability space?
I really think it's that we don't know how to move forward on certain things. One, whether it's tariffs,
Mm.
and things like compostable products. If we want to shift to more compostable materials, but they're made overseas or in
Mm.
China, what do those tariffs look like? We are not immune to tariffs in the sports world. Uh,
No one is immune to tariffs apparently at the moment. So,
exactly. Or investing in energy efficiency or something like renewable energy, where there may have been federal incentives before, those are uncertain.
mhm.
So how do we plan for the future if we don't know those are going to continue to be there when that was our biggest incentive to do it? We want to do it, it makes economical sense if there's tax incentives or certain funding. And now we don't know what the economics are. So it
You're
is,
in good company.
yeah, right.
No, but I mean, it's interesting that it actually impacts you guys as well. I mean, it really truly is touching everyone. I mean, the uncertainty is hard. And so what would you say to an in-house ESG professional, VP of sustainability at a company called public or private, who has some pressure to push back or pull back the programs? What advice would you give?
Focus on what you can control. And that's a lot of what we do is, and that's where we can make the most impact at this time and quicker impact. You know, that might be in waste management, might be working with your procurement team to look at those materials. How do you reduce packaging coming into your facilities? Because the less packaging there is, the less you have to handle, the less you have to throw out, because we all pay to have our trash taken away, right? Regardless of where you are.
Right.
So how do you reduce that? How can you find those savings? You know, when it comes to energy, can you focus on efficiencies in smaller ways? Maybe it's not investing money into your mechanical systems. Maybe it's training up your facilities team to think differently about energy management. You know, or maybe you can invest something smaller, whether it is if you still need to change out LED lights, or you're going to invest in a building management system where you can understand the operations of your building a little bit better, right? So it's all about that control. And then, of course, you can always continue to engage your colleagues in this, you know, within your own organization. How can you build those champions and use sustainability to solve other people's challenges? You know, that's the
Oh, I
best.
love that. I love that.
It's the best part of about sustainability is you can help others solve those challenges, and then you're gonna gain a champion.
Yeah, it's a value add and, you know, all of that. So, and so, I mean, I think your message is don't abandon your hard work. Just find avenues to focus on that make the most sense for the business today, basically,
Absolutely.
and collaborate, which is, you know, huge and so important. And then I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you a little bit about is, you know, no one knows what's going to happen with ESG right now, right? I know you can't predict who's going to win the Cavs game on Friday. You know, God, we're all praying. But I do
Yes.
wonder if you could predict a little bit what you see happening with ESG. I'll just throw in there like some initial thoughts that I have had, which is that I think we're going to see more on a state level, either pro or con. I think there's going to be a lot more activity. We've been tracking and things are being introduced for sure. So maybe even on a local level, but that doesn't mean necessarily, you know, I think it depends what kind of state it is with what you're going to necessarily see. But I think it's, you know, like everything, it sort of ebbs and flows. And I still think there'll be an uptick, but I'm just curious what you think.
I think regulations will be either stalled or abandoned a bit, you
Mm-hmm.
know, whether it's at federal, state level. I think that can be okay. And companies can focus on, again, how do we think about ESG or sustainability to reduce risk and keep talking about it that way because it's important.
Right.
And also really finding that value to how do we find those savings and
Mm-hmm.
shifting the language. At the end of the day, we all want to breathe clean air and drink clean water and live and work in clean, safe neighborhoods, right? So that language, I think, can shift. And then how, as an organization, how as a company, can we contribute to clean water, you know, and a clean environment for all of our stakeholders? There's people are still going to talk about their stakeholder impact, right? Community is still going to be important to many
Right.
companies. So that work is going to continue, and you can layer sustainability into a lot of that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a different vertical, or maybe you're going to have that different language within your organization as opposed to outside stakeholders. And then also when it comes to savings, if we're thinking at the state level, how can you use, whether it's your local chamber of commerce, some other organization
Mm-hmm.
to lobby your state for, say, cheaper energy prices, because in the long run, renewable energy is cheaper. It is going to, of course, cost money to invest in bringing new renewables online. Our infrastructure needs investment generally, right? So that's the hardest part is the energy grid, the infrastructure needs a whole lot of investment anyways. In the
Right.
long term, how can we reduce energy costs and again have clean air and clean water? And I think we are getting there. I think there's more conversations behind the scenes about that. It's going to be maybe less public, but at the end of the day, every company wants to reduce their energy bills and have more reliable energy. So when we think about something like a microgrid, that can be a more reliable, a closer energy source that, and companies might feel they have more control over it, right? So
Gotcha.
how do we take energy control back, and maybe scale that down and think more about that? And I'm just talking generally here, but I think that's what we're going to see a lot more is, all right, how do we get control back a little bit more, and we can invest more locally?
Yeah, and I think that you know, the Cavs are an amazing partner to the community, and I think sports teams in general should be community partners. Even more so, like I think companies should be as well. You need to partner with the community where your facilities are, all of that. So it's kind of looking at that interaction like you're talking about. We got a very interesting question. If regs move to a local level, how crazily will that become? Meaning different local POVs in one state, your thoughts? What if you want to take that one? I'm happy to chime in.
um uh I think you can have more influence there in a sense, right? If things are local, you can have, it's easier to have a local movement, right?
Mhm.
You know, I always say, especially in sustainability, it can be overwhelming to think about the challenges, but I think about how I can impact my corner of the world. That's what we think about at our organization. How do we impact our corner of the world,
Mm.
but share that message out globally so we can influence, but then work with, say, you know, Greater Cleveland Partnership has our Sustainability Leaders Forum. So there's a group of sustainability leaders from the top companies in our region. We get together and have these
I've gone to that
conversations.
before,
Yeah,
GCP's thing.
it's
Yes, it's
great.
excellent. It's excellent. Yes.
So we can have those conversations internally and
Yeah.
try to drive more local change.
Yes.
And that is easier to do at the
It
local
is.
level.
I think you can make a bigger impact, actually. What I think gets difficult is if you're a global company and you're that kind of like your regulation where you have to know what's going on in California down to the local level up to what's on in Japan is just overwhelming. And that's where you get really complicated. So the good thing us about being kind of a Cleveland, Ohio based sports organization, it does make that a little more appealing to
Yeah.
be impactful. So, how do the players get involved with the sustainability effort? And they're obviously one of your stakeholders. Just curious that their role in the process.
I think sustainability is newer to the player space where you see a lot of players involved in, say, social justice
For
issues.
sure.
They're passionate about that. There are some NBA players getting involved. Chris Paul is a great example. He's passionate about sustainability. He's on the board of the Green Sports Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization advancing sustainability in sport from the collegiate level to the professional level.
Okay.
So, and we are a part of that organization as well. You see some more European athletes, like soccer players over in Europe, who are vocal about it. I think it's just a newer space at the player level, but something that's growing quickly and something the NBA is tracking. They're tracking what players are interested in, and when you
I
think
didn't know
about,
about the Green Sports Alliance. I'm going to check that out. That sounds
yeah.
like a really great organization.
It really is, and they also have free playbooks online. They build
Okay.
out where anyone can download those for free. But when you're thinking about sports fandom, a lot, especially younger players, are fans, or sorry, younger fans are fans of players themselves. So they will follow that player to different teams. Of course, they might have their hometown team, but if your favorite player goes to a different team, you're probably still going to follow them, and you're going to be influenced by what they say. So that's a huge
That's
part.
a huge point. My son who when he was growing up, it was Matthew Dellavedova
Oh, yes.
Deli. It was all Deli. I'll never forget. We waited in line for like hours for him to sign something at some point. But yeah. All right. So Danielle, tell me, you have this enormous job. You are literally breaking ceilings and paving pathways. What do you like to do for fun when you're not making change in the sustainability world?
Um, Sticking in the sports world, I do like to watch women's sports and try to promote women's sports, whether it's the NWSL, the WNBA, or anything like that. I also am a frequent, hiker within our metro parks, or love to go to Edgewater Beach and just take advantage of the incredible natural resources in our region. And we garden a lot. I'm also big into bread baking. I love to sling some sourdough.
The sourdough starter.
I haven't been able to do as much as I would like to, because just the work keeps me very busy. But I really love the process of being in the kitchen and cooking and picking things fresh from the garden and making something really delicious and healthy.
Wow. I love all of that. And I want to thank Anthony for introducing us. And I certainly want to thank you, Danielle, for spending a very busy Cavs week with us. I think we started when we first got on, I was explaining that two of my boys were literally crying yesterday after that horrible loss. So please know we're all going to be rooting for you going forward in sustainability, and for sure for our dear Cavs on Friday night here. So thank you so much for your wisdom. That concludes today's discussion. Again, this webinar is being recorded and will be available to view in our library of recording on Thompson Hine's YouTube channel, and will also be on the Environmental Laws podcast. We encourage you to subscribe to stay up to date on everything. We want to thank you for attending today's program, and of course, the most special thank you to Danielle for sharing your insights. Enjoy the rest of the week, folks. Take care.